Hi, thank you so much for tuning in to P2P Relates, where we talk about all things relationships. Well, I finished the series on Marriage is Not for Punks, 12 Things to Think About Before You Say I Do, and last week we covered chapter 13, so you went and did it anyway, huh? I am moving forward now. So we're going to be talking about check yourself, the work in relationships. There's 3 areas I want to cover, and I'm going to do one this week and then the 2 following weeks, subsequent subjects, because I want to dive deep into this to help you. Marriage is work. A long-term, serious, committed relationship is work. Your personal life is work. So no matter what, you've got to be able to roll up your sleeves and say, I'm up for it. And at the same time, you've got to be able to recognize when you're not up for it. You don't want to just let emotions, emotional needs, physical desires be what rules and guides your decisions about being involved with another person. Because if that is what your motivation is, you will be miserable and you will make them miserable. Or you can't make anybody miserable, but you will contribute to their unhappiness in the relationship. So you've got to know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, you've got to be willing to dive in. You've got to be willing to stop and think about who you are, why you are like you are, what it is you like about yourself, what it is you could see yourself working on, some areas where you typically get stuck time and time again, because those things come up in a relationship just at the most inopportune time when you just want to be loved, you just want to have fun, you just want to keep it light. But the reality is sometimes keeping it light is a detriment to the progress of your relationship. So you need to be committed to the work. So we start first with you. Your work is self-acceptance, self-awareness, and self-actualization. When you've worked well in those 3 areas and you get to the nitty-gritty of what that looks like for you, and you know what the work is, you know what the path is, you know somewhat of what the journey is, and you're embracing the journey and the process. It's not some quick overnight thing that you're looking at. You're on the right track. So let's start with acceptance. Self-acceptance means that I embrace the now me. I also embrace the total life that comes with me. I just wanted to give you a second to think about that. It's so easy to criticize yourself because you're not where you want to be, or be depressed or downtrodden or discouraged because some things happened to you that just seemed so terribly unfair, and maybe they were beyond seeming, they were terrible. But if we're not careful, we will get stuck on the but it shouldn't have happened piece, or the resentment piece. And we don't progress, we don't grow, we don't move forward, we don't get over it. I remember when I was married, my sister just had me cracking up because she would say, okay, bitter Betty. And whenever she did that, my first reaction was, I'm not bitter. I justifiably am just annoyed with this problem. But what I recognized was that I loved worshiping the problem. I loved rehearsing it, nursing it, talking about it over and over again. And if I wasn't bitter, I was working myself toward bitterness. So we have to be willing to do the work, and work when you're accepting yourself, because it's work at all 3 levels that we're going to be talking about. So with the acceptance piece, I need to embrace the now me. When I'm talking about self-development, my weakness has always been size. I would always want to be smaller than I was. But coming with that means you have to, one, accept your genes. You have to accept your family origin. You have to accept your choices on a daily basis. Are you moving enough? Are you eating healthy things? Are you saying no to the things that aren't healthy? When you do eat what you want to enjoy, are you enjoying it, or are you doing way too much beyond the enjoyment piece? Have you found a way to discipline yourself to moderation? These are things that's called work in this life. But if you're not willing to do that for whatever reason, you don't know how, you don't seem to have the discipline, you just fall into it over and over again, it's what you know, what you've always done. The bottom line is accept the fact that, hey, nobody put this on me. I've made a series of choices that may not line up with what I'd like my end results to be, and I've got to accept that. I got to accept it now. If I don't have enough money in my bank account, rather than pout about it or get upset, I've got to accept that. Now, acceptance doesn't mean I'm rolling over and I'm just saying, okay, I'm just going to be this way forever. No, it just means instead of rejecting yourself, what's the opposite? You're accepting yourself. So when you want to do some work in that area, which you should want to do before you get involved in the serious relationship, you need to stop and ask yourself, am I willing to do the work? And the answer can be yes or no. See, choice is always available. So you stop and you say, okay, I'm not willing to leave those potato chips alone forever. I'm going to buy potato chips. Now, I may make a small change and say, I'm only going to buy them once a month. Maybe you even play a game and say, I can only buy it if its third Saturday is in the 20s of the month. That's stupid. I just made up something. All third Saturdays are probably going to be the 20th, somewhere in there. But anyway, you make a game and then say, okay, I'll get the treat then. But if you're not ready to even do that, just say, you know what? I'm not ready. And coupled with that has to be that you're willing to own that I am where I'm at today because of the series of choices I've made. Okay? That's acceptance. Okay, we're going to move on to the next piece, self-awareness. Do I recognize what I do? Of course, there's some parts of you that are called the blind self. You don't see it. You don't have a freaking clue that you are doing that thing, or that your habit is that way, or your bent is that way, your perspective is that way. Racism happens like that. Sometimes people are prejudiced because their parents were prejudiced. The neighborhoods, the schools, the businesses, the things that they've been involved in condone that behavior and that mindset, and they don't even recognize it. So anyway, didn't mean to go down that trail, but self-awareness is important because you need to know what it is you really do. It's one thing to believe you are a certain kind of way. It's another to understand how you really are. I have a daughter, and she is so good at pointing out the real me. And it's not in a negative way, a critical way. Oh, I have the best daughter in the world. But the reality is she sees things about me I don't see for myself sometimes. And when she says it, I go like, did I do that? So in order for you to become more self-aware, the work is accepting the fact that you may not be, and that you need to pay more attention to yourself, to what you do, what your habits are, what your tendencies are. Also, you want to give permission slips out to people that you respect, that you look up to, that you trust, that are a little bit further in the area of development than you are, and ask them for feedback. Ask them to tell you about things that they see that you do on a regular basis. It can be positive or negative. It doesn't have to be all bad. You can just say, if you see there's a tendency I have that I do on a regular basis that really says this is bad, please tell me. I'm trying to become more self-aware. And the more self-aware you are, the more you know how you're going to show up. And if you have self-acceptance and awareness in there, then you can love yourself. See, this is gradually loving yourself, gradually being able to say, I'm good enough. I am going to get better. I want to always grow, but right now, I'm good enough. And then the third one is self-actualization. And I didn't look it up in the dictionary, and I'm just going to say it's a this definition, okay? Self-work says that you need to go look it up if you're not satisfied with this answer. But self-actualization says, I want to dig deep. I want to figure out who I am, what I tend to do, self-awareness, what I like, what I'm gifted at, what I have a propensity and achievement for, and then I'm going to pursue perfecting one of those areas and just blow it up. Become the full me, doing the full possibilities of who I am. And usually, we have a gift. God gave everybody a gift. It's something planted in you you haven't figured out. And when you get in touch with that gift, guess what? Most of the time, probably 97% of the time, it's not for you or about you. It's a matter of you getting in touch with it so that you can bless it to other people. But again, you can't fully actualize that part of yourself if you're not self-aware and you don't accept yourself. If you're constantly beating up on yourself because you're not what you want to be and all that good stuff. So I'll leave you with that, and we'll be back next week to talk a little bit more about what is the work that needs to happen in a relationship. Again, you get whole first, then you can show up in the relationship in a healthy way. All right. I just want to encourage you to give me comments. Think about what is one area that you have one of those areas. Is it self-awareness, self-acceptance, or self-actualization that you've walked out? And encourage somebody else that might be watching this today in case they haven't gotten there yet. All right. See you next week. Bye.